you just have a chat about what you said.
Cool. Yeah, that
theory.
I'll just pretense this and say by no means am I an expert or anything, but all the stuff that we talk about tonight are just from my experiences.
Sure.
And I'm happy to share them.
Nice one, likewise.
And I've had a lot of stuff happening since I was a young child with out-of-body experiences and experiencing other dimensions and sort of astral world stuff, and also reality kind of like overlapping and stuff has been happening since I was little, but I never really knew what it was. I always just thought it was a strange dream or something. And then in like 2012, I started actually doing some research into it and being like, oh, it's called an out-of-body experience, or that's called astral projection, or this is called that. And I started putting the pieces together and, oh, that's what people are calling it. So now I can actually communicate in their language and have a discussion about it. So the whole UFO thing, my theory, I guess, is something that I have actually legitimately experienced before, which is where two realities overlap each other, so that for a short period of time you actually experience both realities at once, possibly even a few at once. So I was thinking, and this can happen, like there's lots of little pockets where this can happen, but I was thinking in particular with the whole Air Force thing, the speed that these jets are traveling at is insane. Like just, breaking the speed of sound and all these rules which should not really be broken, and not from a moral sense, but they're just, they're insane things, insane levels to break, and they're just, going across the sky. And
they define the levels of what we're currently capable of our engineering and design.
It's really pushing.
They're way past that.
I was thinking that could actually create a tear, if you like, a tear within our reality to another reality. And therefore we could see, so from the pilot's perspective, he's actually seeing into another reality. So he's seeing this UFO. So perhaps the UFO is even tech that the Americans or some other country has already developed, but it's just in another reality that we don't know about. So it's sort of like 1 or 2 or 3 across. But because of the tear that's been created, they're experiencing both at once, so they can see each other.
Sure.
That was my kind of thing there.
It just made such rational sense, Daniel. And it's when you said it, something about it just felt like, that feels right to me, at least. Anyway, again, like you said, I'm no expert on this thing, and really, we're just having this conversation, just because it's fun. Like it's fun to talk about this stuff. But obviously, at the moment, it's pretty interesting times there with what the world's going through, and then all of a sudden, this footage gets officially released by I don't know if it was the US military or the Department of Defense, or do you know who released that footage? Or was it Air Force or?
I don't know the exact department, but US government anyway.
During these time, they release it like this. I mean, if this had happened at any other time, Daniel, if this had happened 6 months ago, the world would have been like, "Whoa, that's a pretty full-on story." That
would be the main news cycle if it had happened.
Well and truly,
for sure. So it is interesting timing. It's interesting timing for sure.
Do you reckon that they perhaps timed it that way? Because, like we said, they had this footage has actually been out for a while. It's been out for, I don't know, probably a couple of years, or I can't remember how long it's been out for. But like the powers that be in the US, intelligence, whatever, never really said anything about it until recently. So it's like it is an interesting time to be doing this.
Yeah, it's a good time to be sort of slipping things under the rug. I'm really not sure. The whole like powers that be sort of thing, I do acknowledge that, but I don't really go too far into I think we had this conversation on Facebook and you put out a similar message as well. I don't really go too far into the conspiracy stuff. I am aware of it, and I do know those alternate theories exist. And I always question everything, but I think there's a point where you can go too far. with it.
Definitely.
And I myself got caught in that conspiracy stage for probably 3 or 4 years. And I think it really stunts your spiritual growth. And it seems like a bit of a trap for intelligent minds.
Yeah, definitely.
Because
people
very
like it,
someone,
like people like to get lost in their head, you know.
Yeah,
I was the same.
Yeah. I think it's quite common.
Yeah,
but yeah, once you can let that go and realize that, realize your own power, I guess, in creation and manifestation as well. And because, you know, the more attention you give something, the more it's just going to manifest. So all these people talking about 5G towers and all this shit, like, of course,
exactly.
If that's what they truly believe and truly want, that's what we're going to see.
Yeah,
you know?
that's
and
right.
I think there might be some, talking about multiverse theory, there might be some branches that go, oh, that looks kind of cool. There might be
that
some.
does look cool, man. That background
some
is
branches.
killer.
Yeah, I love the Matrix. There might be some shoot-offs in reality, because some people are there's such division, and so some people are so heavily invested in this going to happen, and other people are thinking this is going to happen. So I think there could potentially be some offshoots into different realities here on the other side of this reset, as calling it.
Yeah. I think even perhaps happening now already, and perhaps it's been happening for the last few years. You mentioned 2012. It's a year that keeps coming up in conversations I'm having lately, and since 2012 even. But it feels like there's whatever splits in directions that people and individual souls are going through into their reality, and it's like we're sort of identifying more of a choice of these realities as those. We're starting to understand those parallel universes that we're starting to see them, you know, and feel them. You know, it's not something that we can really understand with our 5 senses, but there's plenty of us, I think, of understanding that. Hang on, wait, there's another way to do things over it. Just there.
Yeah. I think it's definitely heading in that direction.
You think?
And
what was it with you? You mentioned, and so the what? Sorry, the.
I just think things are starting to speed up. There's like an expansion happening at the moment. Time's becoming a little bit more fickle, and so is reality. And I think there's more options that are presenting themselves, giving us more choice, or not necessarily more choice, but being aware of that choice now more than we ever were in the last sort of, you know, few hundred years or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. Right. What do you feel why do you feel that is? What do you feel has been happening that this is occurring?
I haven't really thought about that much. But I guess,
like, what would be the causes of that?
There's so many different things. Like, I often think that, a lot of your listeners and stuff will be familiar with this sort of theory. But so I think there's this physical plane that we all exist on, and then above that there's like there's like an etherical plane, and then there's like the astral plane, and then there's higher planes, and it just keeps going up and up and up and up and up. And it's kind of like a pyramid. So as you go up, it gets less and less beings or entities in each one, but there's more and more freedom and more creativity and less rules in each dimension going upwards. This is just how to visualize it, how I visualize it. But if you think of the bottom of the pyramid, our physical reality, that has to be stable, because if you take away the stability of the bottom of the pyramid, then the whole thing collapses. So, you know, people talk about star seeds and people coming down from higher dimensions and stuff for missions to come into Earth and manifest in this physical form to perform something, part of a plan to save this base reality, because it's threatening the entire ecosystem, basically. So I think maybe we just got to a point where we were at risk of that collapsing. So we were forced into doing this. and certain beings were perhaps sent down. And I think they have been for millennia, but I think in the last sort of 100 years, especially the last sort of like 50 years, it's just been like a lot have been coming down because shit's getting serious.
Since the nuclear bomb, one people argue.
Yeah, like if that happened, like that could potentially not be very good for the entire ecosystem.
So that I mean, like, the sort of rush or the more push of these souls coming onto Earth has been since the nuclear bomb, hydrogen bomb was detonated.
Yeah, that's an interesting
that.
Yeah,
that it actually the frequency of that event or those events, because there's multiple here on Earth.
Yeah.
Actually, like you spoke about, from looking at perhaps these Tic Tac objects as being something that defy something in our reality, yet there are glimpses of it where we can see it, and that the theory is that the nuclear bomb did it the other way. So the nuclear bomb was such a violent event that it actually rippled into the dimensions.
Yeah, that would make
around
sense.
us as well.
Yeah, so it kind of like,
and then it was like, okay, shit,
all the way up, and people were like, "What the fuck is going on down there? Like, we need to sort this out. Like, what the fuck is that?
Now's the time." And then it's interesting, we had like the counterculture come in, LSD, drugs. It was like a real, not long after in the 60s, there was this real shift. Like, it was like something that you could equate to what happened during the Enlightenment period or the Renaissance, It was like a real shift on all of our art and the way we perceived that, like our movie making and our music and everything. It was just a huge increase in
upgrades,
building to where we are now. Upgrades for sure. Freedom. And like, I really enjoyed what you said before about like autonomy, like we're discovering our autonomy now. And that through that we gain through our awareness of ourselves, we're then able to create with purpose.
I like that.
When you were younger, you had some of these experiences of these parallel realities overlapping, and did you understand what was going on at the time?
No, not at all. No. It wasn't until, ironically, 2012 when I started actually figuring out what was going on and becoming a lot more conscious of it and learning how to control it as well. So, like, I think from the period of about 2012 to the end of 2014, I went through a period where I was having maybe up to a dozen out-of-body experiences every single time I went to bed. So, like, as soon as I fell asleep, I'd like be able to come out of my body, go into astral, and there'd be like many more of those throughout to the morning. Some of them are quite memorable. There's a lot of different stories and stuff. But then at a certain point, how do I say this without getting myself in trouble? At a certain point, I decided to start exploring an altered state of consciousness that is quite a low vibrational consciousness, let's just say, for a little while. And it was quite a dark sort of energy, this stuff I was experimenting with. And I kind of lost my link to source and to all my bodies above my physical. I mean, you never really lose the link, but it definitely got really disjointed. And from the end of 2014 to about midway through 2018, I was not able to do that anymore. That skill was gone. I couldn't leave my body anymore or enter the astral world and stuff like that. And I was getting really freaked out and depressed and anxious about it, and like, why is this happening? And like, is this world even real? And then mid 2018, I was just really, really wanting it to happen, and I just kept trying. And this one morning in bed, I had this thing where I was aware that I was in bed, but I was like out of myself a little bit, but not fully out of my body or detached. And there were these beings gathered around me. Some people might call them spirit guides or dream guides or whatever you want to call them, but they were good beings. They were good entities, and they were trying to help me And they were quite angry with me, and I was quite angry with them too, because I was like, why the fuck have you taken so long to, like, you know, get me back to the point where I can come out of my body and explore and pop out and explore? And they were getting angry with me, going, you're a fucking idiot. Like, dude, we've spent fucking 4 or 5 years trying to find your physical body, like, and we've finally found you. Like, you should be thankful. So, and they actually started doing some work on me above me while I was in my bed. And they kind of reconnected my physical body with all of my bodies above that going up. And ever since then, I've been able to do it again, like at will. So, so for anyone that has lost that connection, you can get it back, like 100%.
Had you got to a point where you were working at getting it back yourself? Were you doing different things? Like, did you change anything in your lifestyle? Or
yes, I mean, obviously, I stopped the altered state of consciousness exploring the low vibrational one. But I mean, I stopped that in 2015, I think, start of 2015. So it took a good 3 years to really recover from that. And I don't know if it was about raising my vibrations back up or cleansing all the shit that had just gotten into me. But I mean, I wasn't doing any conscious work on trying to do it. I was just really wanting it to be able to happen again, and just setting that intention that I really wanted to be able to do it again. And it just kind of came out of nowhere one night. That experience just happened. And I was just so happy the next day. I was just like, yes, I'm back. I'm like, fuck yes, thank you.
You felt more connected again. You felt that connection was back.
It was back, and I was so happy. Yeah.
And what have the experiences been like since then? And where are they in you having 3 or 4 year period?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty much on par with what they were. Probably not quite as often. Like, I was definitely in that 2012 to sort of 2014 period. I was very, very, a lot of stuff was going on. So now I could probably do it maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4, 5, sometimes 6 times a night. Like, but it's usually, I used to be able to do it as soon as I went to sleep. I'd be able to just relax and then pop out and then go explore. But lately, I've kind of lost that skill. I could probably get it back if I practiced it. But lately it's been more the what they call the wake back to bed method. So you kind of wake up and then you kind of go back to sleep, but you stay conscious and aware in your mind, but you let your body fall asleep. And then at that point you can start sort of letting yourself float out. There's a few different methods. Like, there's a thing called the rope method. You can imagine a rope that you're climbing out of your body. And slowly, you're kind of dragging your body out, and you will get there. And it's almost like a magnet, like pulling itself apart from each other, and you'll just feel it get stronger and stronger and stronger. And then it's just like, and then you're separated, and then you're in your room. You can see your body. I usually always put like a protective, like white or golden light kind of aura around myself, just to make sure I'm protected, with the intention that only good things can enter and bad things are not allowed. And then I'll go off exploring. Like, there's certain mirrors in the house that I use as portals to consciously visit different points in time, locations, people. Like, it's limitless what you can do in there. It's insane. Like, that's why I don't experiment with anything anymore, even the good side of stuff like hallucinogens and stuff like that. I just leave it all alone, because the stuff I can do in my dreams and in these out-of-body experiences is just like insanely above that. Like, so yeah, I do a lot of my work in those spaces now.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things? Are you going other planets, other dimensions? Are people visiting you, or entities visiting you, I should say?
Yeah, usually it's more self-exploration. I do meet other people sometimes. I've been to the moon. Usually other dimensions though. But I'll always start in my room, like out of my bed, and then I'll kind of decide where I want to go from there. Sometimes I just kind of let it happen and just go with it, and whatever happens, happens. I can share one story. This is one going back to my 2012, 2013 experiences. And this was kind of like I was conscious and aware and fully lucid the whole time, but I kind of just felt drawn to do what I did. So I came out of my body, the experience that I was just telling you about, popped out of my body. I was in my room, floated around for a little bit, went out the door and then went outside into the backyard and just kind of looked up into the stars and just thought, I want to be up there. And then I kind of like looked at the ground and then just sort of like bent down with my knees, and the ground kind of like went like this, like a trampoline a little bit. And then I just went and just shot bang, like straight up into space. I could see the earth. It was round, by the way, but we won't get started on that because that's a whole nother topic.
Was it flat though, or spherical?
It was spherical. And for some reason, I don't know why, I felt the natural inclination while I was out there watching the earth. I started doing this weird thing where I was like building this energy in my hands, like this really white, powerful energy, and it just kept building and building and building, getting stronger and stronger. And I could feel it in my hands. It was insane. I spent like probably a good, 10 minutes doing this, which is like a long time in dream state. You know, I can almost feel it now. Fuck. And and it just got bigger and bigger to the point where I was just like up here with it, playing with it. And I just went back towards Earth. I just went like that. And it went all the way around the Earth in all these little grids, like all the way around, and wrapped it all around. I still don't know why I did that, but it was just like, yeah, I don't know. It was like a part of me just felt drawn to do that.
Perhaps it was something working through you as well.
It could have been,
like you were getting yourself out of the way, and this experience was, then that thing that wanted to do this, like that aspect of came through and did it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, they're interesting stories, man. Any of these stories about projection and especially during sleep state, or sleep state / wake state, right? It's quite a powerful time, and the ability to lucid dream and then to really sort of move around in those dimensions. It's can be a great learning experience, and it's something that can really change a lot of the way you perceive the world.
Yeah.
What about sort of?
You can learn so much. Like there's, I mean, it's like, it's insane. I could go on about this for hours. Like there's actually schools that exist in the astral planes that I've visited and learned stuff and went to school, like over a period of time. Like every time I would visit the astral plane, I would be at that school learning magic, or, how to bring someone back to life, or, all these different dream skills. And I'd be learning them and honing that craft. There's been a few different schools I've visited in astral. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like I see myself as a total beginner. Like some of the stuff I've heard, like, Akashic records and stuff like that.
Sure.
I had this one experience where I was in my room once out of my body. Some people, I've spoken to some people about it, and they say it was Akashic records, and that it can take sort of any form it sort of manifests as. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be a library. But there was this one time I was in my room just looking at the wall, and this screen just appeared on my wall, like a flat screen TV. And there were all these images on there from my life, and I could just kind of scroll like that, like an iPad, just like scroll as I'm looking at it. And then once I found an image that I kind of liked the look of, I'd kind of just like click on it, and then I'd go into the image, and then experience that like dream, or that like part of my memory or whatever. Yeah,
crazy.
So that was pretty insane. Like maybe it was like an interface or something. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, but it was pretty crazy.
And could you also feel into that experience as well?
Like once I went into the picture, I then spawned, I guess, in that world, and then I was a part of that world, and I was literally in that construct. Yeah.
Have you experienced DMT?
Let me just see if that's bad for my career. Let me say, DMT is a substance that occurs naturally in all beings. So yes, I have experienced DMT.
We all have. That's very true. We all have. It's running throughout, and that's actually a component of what they believe dream state is too.
Totally. Like when I used to do like these, if I ever went on a massive journey that was really intense, sometimes I'd wake up from it in my bed and just like, wow, that was fucking so cool. I'd turn on the lights and I'd go look in my mirror and my pupils fucking massive, like fucking dinner plates. And I'm like, that's DMT. That is fucking DMT flooding through your brain. So it totally is like dream state stuff. It totally is, man. You're 100%. Yeah.
Maybe for people, audience members who aren't too aware of how DMT, dimethyltryptamine, how it works in our own system, but Daniel, I'm sure you know like the idea of the pineal gland and it releasing DMT. Could you just explain to the audience a little bit about how that all works and its relation to the spirit world / dream world / whatever world?
God, you might be better at explaining that. I guess the pineal gland, the third eye, is kind of like the connection to the spirit world. That's actually what you use, what they call astral vision. So often when people are learning or just starting astral projection, when they come out of their body in their rooms, they'll actually feel like they're out of their body and be able to hear and stuff, but they won't be able to see anything. They'll be blind. But over time, if you just trust and just keep going, your vision will actually start becoming clearer and you'll be able to see. So that's your third eye, because obviously your eyes are closed, but your third eye can see.
And on reptiles, the third eye, the pineal gland, actually has a retina and a lens as well.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know about all reptiles, but I know at least some reptiles.
That's interesting.
I think frogs as well.
Yeah.
The pineal gland in those species has a retina and a lens.
Just on the third eye thing, like I think it was about maybe like 3 or 4 months ago. I was just standing in my bathroom taking a piss, and I just closed my eyes because it just felt really good. And I had my eyes fully closed, but I saw this like white veil appear, and then it kind of like dissipated. And after it dissipated, I could actually see around me with my eyes fully closed. And I tested it out. Like I put up fingers in front of me and counted them, and they were all like corresponding, and it was weird. I don't know if you've ever heard of, I've still been trying to figure out what that was, if you've heard of that or not. But yeah, that's a new thing for me. Like that's only just started happening. So
yeah, right.
I don't know quite what that was.
It must be a third eye thing.
I think so. Yeah.
You're picking up. There's some other sensory thing beyond the 5 senses that we know of that you're picking up on and being able to understand.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So these experiences that yourself and many other people around the world were having these cool experiences, and over the last few years we've been talking about them and sharing these experiences and talking to each other about it. And I've got my belief is that at the moment this is like the time that we start grounding and start earthing, manifesting, whatever it may be, like bringing into the physical realm these sort of things that we have been experiencing, but like have been getting ourselves too much in the way of it's actually working through us. You know, I can speak for myself, especially. Just there's been aspects of the way I've been living my life, I know, out of fear, haven't truly been getting myself out of the way to bring these forward. And what is perhaps happening now with this coronavirus is that nature is saying, like you said earlier, we've got to a period now, we've really got to start doing something. And nature's way to like help propel that along was to create this virus. And I know different people watching this can have different opinions on that virus.
Oh, there'll be thousands, yeah.
There'll be thousands, but let it be said that it has actually created something unique and novel in the world at the moment. Yeah. So it provides a really good opportunity to. Yeah. I like what you spoke about before and it's something I've really been thinking about too a lot. Not identifying with left and right, not identifying in that duality, but instead let's look at something that we can create beyond the duality, like something into the third, so into the fifth dimension, but using the three parts. Yeah, not just the duality, the left and the right, and I'd like to just get some of your thoughts on that as well.
I think we're already there. To be honest, we're already there. It's just that most of us aren't aware of it yet.
This split,
the expansion into the fifth dimension. I think we already exist in all of those dimensions. It's just that the awareness hasn't expanded yet. For some of us, it has. Of course, a lot of our listeners and stuff will be aware of this stuff.
Sure, but that conscious awareness.
But the conscious awareness is happening now, and this whole COVID-19 thing, it's almost like it's presenting us with almost a blank canvas, I guess, if you like, for us to paint on and decide what we want to see next in our future. And I'm not saying we have to rebuild the whole thing from fucking scratch. That'd just be insane. I mean, maybe some people want to do that. I'm not ready for that.
I'm one of those people, Daniel. I just want to do it. I want a blank canvas.
Blank canvas it.
But I understand what you're saying too. We need to have some
tweaks. We can make some tweaks. Small little steps.
I agree. There needs to be
build our way up because if we want to do it together with everyone involved, if we make these big, huge, radical changes, they're just going to freak out and go, "What the fuck is that?"
Exactly.
Lose their fucking minds.
Exactly. I'm just impatient.
I've actually
patience is a virtue.
You might find this interesting, and
sure.
Fucking pretty much 99% of people are going to disagree with me about this. But I've got an interesting perspective on science. I actually think that science doesn't create the new technology and the ideas. It's the other way around. The ideas and the technology are created in vision, and then the science backs that up and explains it to the masses so that they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can understand that. Like, that makes sense. Like, so they don't freak out. Like, even just like, if you think about airplanes, if people didn't know the science behind it, they're just like, what the fuck is going on? They'd be like losing their minds. But if we back it up with science and say, well, the wings work in this way, and, the jets and the engines, and then people are like, oh, that's logical. That makes sense. Yeah, I can believe in that. I can get on board with that. We can break this law. I can get on board with that. So for me, science is extremely important. But for me, I look at it slightly differently. Rather than creating stuff, the creating stuff happens first, and the science is there to kind of make sense of it. Like take, what's his name? Elon Musk. His ideas are fucking crazy and out there, but I think he definitely starts from the idea and the vision.
Yeah, his is beyond science.
Then he gets the science to back it up.
That's right.
And then once we have the science to explain it to the masses, then the masses accept it. And then the idea and the belief can seed into us as a collective. And then we can break the rules or build a new idea and implement it into the world.
Yeah. Totally. That sounds really spot on. You're looking at the way you mentioned Elon Musk about the way he's doing it. He's creating things that go beyond science. Like he's operating outside of the norm, right? Yeah. But the science is then there catching up to help explain it and communicate it to us, us lay people. And I think that makes total sense. It is interesting why Elon Musk is doing that, right? He's obviously tapped into. Do you mind if we? I'm really interested in Elon Musk, but I've never spoken about him on a podcast before, so I've got a feeling.
Let's do it.
Let's get into that one, Elon Musk.
You can be Joe Rogan and I'll be Elon, and you can roll me into and I'll smoke the joint and
a virtual joint.
Cause controversy.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. No, cool. Let's do it.
Yeah. That was an interesting podcast too, by the way, for everyone.
That's amazing. Yeah, check it out. Yeah.
I think it's his most highly viewed podcast.
Totally,
Pretty sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
For good reason. It's quite interesting. But yeah, Elon Musk is someone who's, for people who don't know too much about him, he's created. He first started out developing software as a teenager, computer games, and then these other businesses he started with his brother, which then led on to being one of the co-creators of PayPal, which is everyone I'm sure will know. He sold PayPal, and with the money that he made from selling PayPal, he invested that into an electric car company named Tesla, a rocket company, which he named SpaceX, and also a company that does solar panels, renewable energy type resources. And after much dedication and hard work, he's got, at least two of those three things working at quite an optimal level, Daniel, where you'd say, he's pushed the boundaries of what we thought possible, including, he's revolutionized the car industry, revolutionized transport. He's figured out a way to make rockets and rocket flights cheaper by getting the fuel stage of the rocket to land back on Earth after it's launched this orbiter into orbit. He knows how to. He's learned and cut the cost of flights by like 50 or 60% or something like that. So a lot of the boundaries we had to progression, he's just smashed through. Because, for 100 years, the internal combustion engine didn't really change that much, the way we got around on four wheels. That was very much stuck in the dark ages. Our space program was going backwards worldwide. And then, this one man comes through and has absolutely revolutionized all that. That's a little bit about Elon Musk. But, what are your thoughts about what he's doing?
Just from what you're saying there, it makes me think that, going back to that theory I had about science, if there is some sort of human, and that would be Elon, that can visualize an idea or a new technology or whatever it may be, that breaks the grounds, breaks the rules, etc., pushes the boundaries, and then back it up with the language in science, he needs to sell it to our minds to make sense, if you know what I mean. That's kind of what he's doing. He's visualizing, and at the same time, he's going, this is the scientific, this is how we're going to make this vision happen. And he's merging them. And I think that's how he's making stuff happen so far. In one lifetime, the amount of stuff he's done so far, and he's not done yet. He's nowhere close.
Nowhere near done.
Incredible. And there's the battery farm in South Australia. You heard about that? So there's so much stuff, and he makes such good points. It's so simple. And hopefully on the other side of this we can make some changes, but it's just so obvious that money just fucking drives everything. But even if money did drive everything, he's still got a solution for the fucking government. Because he's as Australia, you've got all of this land, all of this sun. You could just build solar panels and harness them in lithium batteries, and you could even sell that power to China and all of Asia and make a shitload of money, which makes the government happy. And you're using a renewable green resource to power, to power everything. It's incredible.
Totally, Danny. Yeah, totally. He understands that. That's the type of vision he's working with. But unfortunately, he's come up working in this framework of the governments around the world generally keeping this progression of new technologies down. They've got the coal companies in their back pocket. They've got all the fossil fuel companies and the industries around that in the politicians' back pocket, and they're in no rush to get this going. But and our technology could be argued, and a lot of people would say that's not quite there to take over and supply that even in Australia. But what Elon Musk did is like you said, South Australia was struggling with their power consumption for a long period of time, and he basically came in and put a battery storage farm there, so that if their South Australia's power went out, mainly Adelaide, this would kick in, and it's totally revolutionised the way that country does, that state, I should say, does power. And that's the potential we have here in Australia.
Yeah,
and we're just not doing it.
The federal government fucking hated that. They did not like it at all, not one bit. They were completely opposed to it, would not invest in it. Elon, and credit to South Australia, puts out a few feelers, and they're just getting investment from all over the globe. They build the thing. Government says, it's just some battery, it's not going to do anything. And he's proven them all wrong. It is actually, doing something. And with more of them, you can replicate that and expand on that and extrapolate that and do even more. Like it's pretty obvious. And yes, obviously, as the tech gets better, the bang for your buck, I guess, the power of things will get more and more and more extreme. But there should definitely be some sort of, at least a transition, even if it's a slow transition. And a lot of countries are doing that, I feel. At the moment.
It's happening.
I think here in Australia, we're very, and I don't get into politics much or anything, but we seem to be very clinging on. And I don't know if it's a money thing, because it's been proven that you can make more money from renewables anyway. It might be more of a mindset thing, or they're just stuck in this old paradigm, this old way of thinking, and this is how it has to be done. And or maybe it's the risk of an uncertain future that they're not completely certain of putting their faith in a new technology just yet, and they'd rather just if it's not broke, don't fix it, sort of thing.
Yeah, they're comfortable, and but unfortunately, though, Daniel, that's how societies break down when they stop progressing, when they stop moving forward, and that's where societies start crumbling, and that's the phase we're in. So really, it's going to take. I feel that it's going to take just private enterprise. It's just going to take the individuals, people like Elon Musk, just to circumnavigate all that bullshit. Just create that demand. The science is there that communicates it to people in a way that, for example, Tesla doesn't even advertise. Like what he's doing resonates so strongly with so many people that I don't think he's even spent $1 on advertising Tesla. I mean, what the fuck?
It's insane.
He's got like the third or second highest
following.
Yeah, or turnover of cars or manufacturing of cars. I think he's behind Toyota still, and
he's released all these
but with no advertising
stuff as now, hasn't he?
Open source, and so and he's
cool,
also
really cool.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing to do.
It gives me faith in like him as a human to do that. Like, because if he hoarded them, he could make more money off it. So you can see he clearly
the old style way.
He has good intentions and he wants to make the world a better place. I know some people are a bit wary of him, but I don't know. I just have this good feeling about him. Like, he definitely wants to do the right thing, and he wants to just evolve humanity to a greater level, tech-wise, etc., so that we can stop being slaves and working these shitty fucking 9-to-5 plebby fucking jobs, which are important because they keep the world going. But if we could, for example, use technology to automate all of that and get rid of the whole you have to work to make money to survive, to put a roof on your head, if we could get rid of all that and use technology to do most of the jobs, and then just pay like some sort of universal wage to everyone so they can just survive, like a basic level, like maybe the level of what do you call it, job seeker is now is quite reasonable, 1,100 or whatever a fortnight. That can be like the base level, or maybe a little bit more. It could be the base level. And if people want to make more money, they can fucking go out and work and make more money. That's on them. Like, good on them if they want to do that. But I think there should be a universal wage. Most of the jobs could be taken over by tech, and that would free everyone else up to do what we were really born to do, and create and be artists and tell stories and play music, and things that we're passionate about. Go exploring, whatever. Like,
well, we could go
isn't that the point
stars,
of
Daniel? Really?
Exactly. Like, isn't that the point of humanity to keep expanding and exploring, and we're just prisoning ourselves in these things, and I know there's a lot of external stuff involved as well.
Yeah, but you're right. We're doing it to ourselves.
But we are by buying into that shit and by focusing on it and giving it attention, we're giving it more power.
That's right.
I think we need to start unsubscribing from a lot of that stuff and really collectively creating our own stations, so to speak, I guess, and broadcasting those instead.
Nice one. Yeah. And we've got the potential to do it. We really do. Do you know the Venus Project? You heard of the Venus Project?
No.
So the Venus Project came from the documentary series, the 3-part one. Just had a mental blank. What was those documentaries that came out about a decade ago?
Zeitgeist?
The Zeitgeist documentaries. Thank you.
Yeah.
And the second one, I think, and also the third one a little bit, the Venus Project. Jacques Fresco was a social engineer. He passed away, but he was friends with like Albert Einstein and all that. But he was a social engineer, and he his idea was based on this thing called the Venus Project, which was a resource-based economy. Yeah. So it was using machinery that were powered off renewable energies to develop resources that were needed in the world that we could sell and put into the marketplace, and the profits of which would go into giving us all universal basic income, where we could then create and do what we wanted and things like that. So I think it's a idea that we should look at more, and especially with how we've got this artificial intelligence able to help us with that. The problem of that working, though, is in this current political framework of representative politics. There's a guy called Naval Ravikant who I follow, and he was talking about on the Joe Rogan podcast recently they were talking about universal basic income. And his thing is, the issue is like the way we have it at the moment, if they set it at say $15,000 per year, then another guy comes along and says, I'm going to give you 20. And then another guy comes along and says, I'm going to give you 25. And then we're always going to vote for the person who's going to give us more. And so there's a risk of falling into bankruptcy by doing that. I really feel like this universal basic income idea where every person's needs are met. I don't think it should be a cash payment. I think it should be like paying the bill, straight to paying bills, straight to paying for a home, for a car, etc. Not cash payments. That would be good. It has to be into our utilities. You know? Everything is just apply for free. All medicals apply for free. All internet, powers, all that stuff, free.
Basically,
all internet. We all get a home. But at the moment, this representative style of politics is just not going to let that happen. There's guys like Andrew Yang in the US who's he's a Democrat, and he's trying to push that into the scene, and he's sort of got quite a strong following in the last year or two. But I don't feel like it can work in this. We need to have some other new form of governance, some correspondence where it's more of an individual, what the individuals decide as a collective, rather than what the lobbyist gets the politician at the top to choose on.
I mean, there are, like before, we were talking about making changes in smaller increments rather than just, there is a way I thought of a while ago to sort of, as a middle ground, to sort of get them thinking a little bit more outside the box and still rewarding them as a government with money, which they fucking love, and taxes, which is, it sprung from an idea from in the 80s in the film industry in Australia. There was a incentive called the 10BA incentive, and you can Google this, fearless and stuff, you can Google it. And basically the 10BA incentive. How
do you spell that?
So just the number 10 and then the letters B and A.
Okay.
And the 10BA incentive basically was if someone invested in your movie to be made, they could claim back 150% tax on it.
Oh, really? Okay.
So basically, there's no possible way of losing money. So we had a boom in the industry. Shitloads and shitloads of projects were being made. A lot of shit movies as well, by the way, because people were just using them as tax breaks and stuff like that. But with some tweaks and some other rules, you could apply that to a lot of different things, not just movies, maybe art in general, or maybe even bigger than art, sort of any little projects that someone works on. And you could minimize that cap to anything over, say, $10 and max the cap to whatever you want. The benefit of that, let me just make sure I've got this right so I don't look like an idiot, but I did figure it out. The benefit of that would be that it obviously makes the art community and everyone thrive, and they can make these projects. So say, for example, I'll just use a movie as an example because that's my area of expertise, so that's what I know about. So say I wanted to raise a $2 million budget to make a fairly low budget Australian film. I would raise that money with my investors. They would be happy because they know that they'd be getting their money back. The government also, as part of the incentive, the government, any profits that the film made, the government would make 50% tax on everything, which I think is a fair trade-off. Because a lot of films don't make money either.
Sure. Most don't, right?
Most don't, no. And then also, you know, all the crew, all the team, like, you know, you've got hundreds of people working on this movie, all the cast and the extras and everything all coming into Australia, into wherever, whichever city or whichever country area they're shooting in. And they're pumping money into the industry, spending money, which is good for building infrastructure and building towns up and spreading money around. So it's kind of like everyone wins out. Like the government gets their tax if the film does make money, and when films do make money, they usually really make money. So they get a shitload back on that 50% tax. The communities and the towns and the cities will get a shitload of money from all the crews coming in and spending money and just living there and stuff during the shoot. And the artistic industry gets to thrive from the bottom up because there's no limit on how small you can do this thing with. So you could just make a short film, or you could do some sort of art exhibition or whatever, and you could feel safe in the knowledge that you get your money back anyway, at the very least, and then that takes the pressure off. So you can all just create and have fun, and everyone wins. So I don't know why they don't look at bringing that back and expanding that, because that kind of, there's probably, I mean, I'm sure there's probably holes in that. You could probably see some for me, but it just seems like ludicrous. Like that seems like a pretty simple solution as like a middle ground, maybe getting us towards thinking about doing what we were talking about previously more. That could be a good place to start, offering more of these tax back incentives, even if it wasn't 150%, even if it was just 100%, like it would still,
just to cover your losses.
Yeah. It would be a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but there's this funny thing though, right? Like of doing those sort of, having those sort of programs for the arts. Like it seems being like something that's not really needed in our society, and instead we have a lot of our subsidies and a lot of our socialized taxes and things like that going towards you know, large corporations and also bailing them out when times get tough. You know, it doesn't go to the people, it doesn't go to the artistic realm, it really goes to this other, it goes to the corporate side of things. But your idea of, I guess, trying to bring more benefit to I hate saying the word government sometimes, but bringing more benefit to the government does make sense, right? Like, by creating something that's going to benefit all.
Scratch their back and they'll scratch yours, you know. And if that's the point we're at right now, that's fine, you know. Like, and we'll slowly slowly just keep edging them until, you know, they don't even realize, and they look up one day and we're in utopia and they're like, how the fuck did we get here?
Yeah, sure.
You know, I mean, the arts industry, like, yeah, it is a shame that it's looked at like that. Like the arts industry in Australia, because I've been all over this, because I've been doing a lot of Zoom meetings and stuff, pushing for all the arts funding and stuff, and everyone's in the same boat. It's not just arts. I want to make that clear. It's not just us. It's we're all in the same boat. It's everyone. But I mean, the arts community in Australia, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure contributes. It's in the billions. I think it's around 2 billion or more per year in revenue. And you know, what would world be without art? Like, even this whole COVID situation, being locked in our homes, like, could you imagine not having music or having movies or Netflix or even books? Like, that's all art. Like, you know, like, how would we, I mean, that's the reason we live for, is for that stuff. Like, yes, you know, architects and lawyers and doctors and everyone in society is so essential. But the reason they put themselves through that is for the reward of being able to have that art, you know, put on that favorite song and feel those feelings and awaken and think about things differently and watch a movie and think, oh, that's quite an interesting idea. And you know,
different
like,
perspective.
Without all that, we'd just be robots. Like, we'd just be working for survival, and that's not what we want. Like, we know that.
That's a really good point. And I feel like, obviously, with art, you can also throw in design there too. I feel like our ability to progress and bring good design into these things that we're building into the world and manifesting into the world is part of this uplifting. Again, going back to Elon Musk, a lot of what he's doing is basically incorporating good design and it's the design features. But we're living in a society where art and design is seen as, you know, needing to be taken a backseat, while the mighty dollar is paramount, and also media, trash media, we'll say, not proper media. Is seen as being utterly important, and you know, we're sort of just creating like instead of exploring outside of ourselves and also outside and inside of ourselves, we're just creating a vortex for ourselves that a lot of people are slipping into. This vortex of like media, fear, consumerism, you know, yada yada, and it's a real shame. I've got my theory that design, creativity, is what's going to save our bacon. Creativity in the form of art, in the form of good design, is what's going to see us through. So it's important that we get us enough to, you know, if we want to write poetry, if we want to create a piece of art, or if we want to record a podcast, just get ourselves out of the way enough to actually do it. Let that thing come through that wants to be coming through, and just share it with the world.
That's it, man. Creating and sharing and inspiring. Create, share, inspire. Man. Yeah, that's really cool.
And because we're all we and then it's a momentum thing, right? Like, once we get in this momentum, then that's like you know, we work off momentum. As we get going with something, we keep going. Things come a little bit easier, and we might go through some tough times, etc. But we know how to get through them, and we can just keep rolling along. And that momentum of creativity is something that is really quite an amazing, exceptional thing that we get to experience as a human species.
It's so exciting. And I think, like, even what we were talking before about upgrades, you know, and like that we're starting to become conscious and aware of some of these skills that we do have inside us, in our DNA, from our higher self coming through us, whatever. Like, by becoming aware of that, it's also, along with the art and the design and all that stuff, but even just the power of imagination and creativity and manifestation to shape the entire fabric of existence is now becoming more and more malleable And with the right collective state of consciousness and vibration, we could really make some really cool things and just play and have fun with it, experiment and not just live to survive anymore, like there's no reason, like every single soul on the earth could be fed and housed. Like,
it doesn't need to be a starving child in the world.
10 times over.
Exactly.
We just need to learn to share again. We need to learn to share, I think. Yeah.
And something you spoke about before, the will also, just the will to do it. Like it's like flicking a switch. If we decide one day we want to do this, and this is something that is important in our, let's do it. Let's feed everyone that needs to be fed. Let's home everyone. House everyone needs to have a home. Let's stop a lot of the atrocities that we're seeing in the world and a lot of the forced slavery that we're seeing in the world as well. Like it really is like a flick in a switch, and you're right. It's going to take just a greater. They talk about like the 100 monkey scenario. So you just have enough to create a critical mass. Where that consciousness is enough with enough people in enough places in the world where it just switches. And that becomes the new norm.
Yeah, pretty much. I think of it the same way, like, but a slightly different analogy, but same thing. Like I think of it as a brain, like the whole collective human consciousness is a brain. And I read somewhere, don't quote me on where, but there's this theory that you need 10% of the brain to light up for an idea to take hold. So if we're all this collective consciousness in the brain, we only need 10% of us to influence that idea and for it to take hold over the whole consciousness. So slowly, as each one of us sparks up these synapses in the global connected brain, we slowly get closer and closer to that mark. And once we get to 10%, the idea will start floating around the entire consciousness. And if the entire consciousness accepts this idea, I'll tell you one thing. There's not a fucking weapon or fucking anything in the world, like negative or that's coming at us that will be able to stop an idea. Ideas cannot be shut down by guns or tanks or weapons or bombs or nukes. Like once that idea is taken hold and I'm talking about the politicians too. I'm talking about Trump and I'm talking about our leaders. Like, could you imagine if Trump and our leaders and the world leaders were, on that level? Fuck, we'd be fine. We'd be totally fine. So I think that's just like more reassurance that we're doing the right thing. We're doing the right work. And eventually, like, surely these ideas will take off and they'll start affecting, like, I think we'll see in the next sort of few years or so, maybe a little bit more, but I reckon we'll start seeing some enlightened politicians, perhaps, which, I mean, you think would be crazy, but, last year we'd think the situation we're in right now would be crazy too. If we had some people that were in power, that were pulling the strings and calling shots, that had an awakening and an evolution of consciousness and started feeling differently about all this, cool. Could you imagine what they could do, like just going down from the top and spreading it out? Like, wow, that'd be so cool. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, like maybe someone who's had some LSD experiences and
I believe they're capable of it, like
for sure.
All humans are innately, they have a good part in them and they want to do good. They've just some of us have just gotten a little bit lost, I think they're definitely capable of it.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, what were you saying about LSD?
I mean, people who've had, had these transcendental experiences before, whether it's through their own fruition or whether it's through like ayahuasca or DMT or LSD or something, psilocybin mushrooms. People have had these mind expanding, the old term mind expanding experiences, and they've given another perspective, and they're going back into that world to help affect positive change.
Yeah, Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs is a prime example of that, isn't he? He's someone who created a lot of what he did based on his LSD experiences. I've got no doubt. I mean, Elon Musk is like a Burning Man regular. Like, I've got no doubt that he's dabbled in.
Oh, is that right? He's Burning Man. Oh, cool.
Yeah. I don't think he's been in a while. Like, he had a funny thing about, because it got called off this year or something. He had a tweet about how, like, no big deal because it sucks now anyway, or something like that.
Yeah, it's been a bit commercialized.
Yeah.
And capitalized, hasn't it?
He used to go up until about a few years ago, I think. But, so you've had these people now have had these experiences, and it'd be great to see that happen in our politics, right, in our parliament. Like, and I've got some friends that are in that political realm, and they've had experiences with various substances to do that. So it gives me hope, and and also teachers, and a lot of these
I think
people have experienced things.
I think it's important to note though that it doesn't necessarily have to be substances that get you there.
Like, very good point.
They can be a key used in the right way.
Yeah.
But like, I think, like, in terms of our evolution in our skill set and all of these innate abilities within us, we're kind of meant to slowly, like, if you imagine, this is an analogy my friend uses, but I really like it, like drilling a hole in your head, and it just like slowly gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and the source from your crown chakra just gets more and more connected, and slowly you learn and upgrade and flow through it. Whereas some of these altered states of consciousness, there can be a lot like straight away, and it can kind of just like open that.
Be too much.
And it can be a lot to deal with. Like, I know it was for me. It took me a long time to integrate that learning. And I don't know if I call it a cheat code. I mean, I think they totally have their merits. And I know you've done a lot of ceremony work. But yeah, I think it's important to note that it's totally not the only way to get there.
Yeah. And it's also that path is also 50% of the work as well. Like, totally, it doesn't give all the answers. It doesn't give all the necessary tools. Yeah. It definitely helps and shows you things that you can incorporate. But you have to then go incorporate it. You then have to go and ground it and manifest it. And me too, man. Years. It took me years. And I'm still working on it to this day.
Yeah, same.
Really.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is, and I think what you've been working on, from the way it feels with this conversation we're having, and like we're talking about different politicians who are coming in here, it's really just about that self-awareness, right? It's really just continuing to bring in and become the observer, like be the observer, or operate from that space of our higher self, not relenting to our emotions, not relenting to what we perceive in this physical reality, but operating from all multi-dimensional aspects of ourselves.
Yeah,
it is
like you were saying before, like with this new reset, we've got where things are more malleable. We've got this potential to bring things down from up there and slowly bring them down into our physical. You know what I mean? So we're almost kind of like finding them out there and trying to bring them back and integrate them here. Which is cool too. Yeah.
Hopefully you see much more of it. It's an interesting time. I think a lot of people are doing a lot of great work, and I think we might wrap up on that note. Daniel, what do you reckon?
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add, or anything else that you'd like to?
There was something I was thinking about, but I forgot what I was thinking about. I guess that sounds pretty good.
We've got all the time in the world, so don't sweat.
Yeah, cool. I love this. This is great. This has been so fun. What else were we talking about? Dream stuff, the new paradigm,
parallel realities or parallel dimensions,
the slowly expansion of the drill in the head versus just and then catching up.
One thing we only touched on a little bit, but I feel like I just want to give, based on this conversation as well, just really reiterate the importance of is the grounding of all this as well.
Yeah,
it's cool to talk about, and imagine and create and do this, but to actually ground it into this physical reality. I think a lot of what goes wrong, especially in these esoteric worlds, these spiritual New Age worlds, is a lot of people forget about the actual, from the sacral chakra and below, and there's actually a little bit of denial that goes on about the physical reality. People start saying, things like, none of this is real and all that, without, I don't think they even understand what they're talking about. It's like a fad term.
Yeah.
But the problem with that and resisting or pushing away physical reality, like this stuff, is that we can actually never implement the good things that we want to implement into the world. So that's where just the groundedness is a really important aspect of all this.
It's like the pyramid thing we were talking about before.
Yeah,
that bottom
that's
level
right. That's what made me think of it.
Structure, or like a tree, you have to have really strong roots in the ground, and the stronger the roots are into the ground, the higher the tree can grow.
Yeah.
So it's extremely important to stay grounded. And why else would we be here? I mean, we came from spirit. We're going to return to spirit. So we're here for a reason in this physical human experience. So like, stop overthinking it so much and just experience it. Like,
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
There is no spoon.
You're not going to bend it, eh? Do you know how to bend spoons?
I'll try. I don't
know. That's one thing when I see people do that. I mean, you've got to question everything, but when I see people bending spoons, I've heard about all the different tricks, but I'm like, that's pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah,
bending a spoon. I'm sure there's some trick to it, but it is a funny one. How can people find out about you, Daniel? How can people contact you?
I think just follow me on Facebook. I've got my follows open, so feel free to follow me on Facebook.
Nice.
Yeah, Daniel.
Do you have a YouTube channel as well, or there's some of the projects you've been working on the YouTube base?
Not.
Or is that not really?
We've got one film at market at the moment that's looking to be released soon. Mm-hmm. So I'll be announcing that on the Facebook page when that's ready. And then we're working on a couple more now in development.
Okay. Nice one. Oh, brilliant, man.
Yeah. Just integrate some of this stuff into our storytelling as well, which would be really cool.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that once before, one of the last times we caught up about that. Yeah. That's your passion, is like integrating a lot of things that we spoke about tonight, and the things that you've been looking into yourself and your journey in integrating that into the medium of movies.
And the
like
cool,
The Matrix,
the cool
for example.
And the cool thing is now, because of movies like The Matrix, Inception, etc., these movies that have popularized and TV shows like the OA and stuff like that have popularized these alternate reality theories and multidimensional theories, is that because they've gone mainstream, they've kind of upgraded the entire audience as well. So the audience has gotten more intelligent. So now we're at a point where we don't need to actually spell it out so much. We can be more subtle with it. So we can just tell like a normal, like grounded story, and just have subtle kind of throws to like this might be, and they'll get it, they'll understand it. So it's a really interesting space to be in, like having en masse the audience upgraded to a level where they're more intelligent now, and you don't have to really, spell things out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
it'd be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I know even like stand-up comedians talk about that, about how around the world at the moment, audiences everywhere you go are becoming smarter. So it's good for stand-up comedians. I've got to give a plug to the show. I watched the first episode last night by recommendation of a friend of mine, Robert Jenkins, and when he recommends something to me, I must check it out. And I actually rewatched it again today, but it was the first episode of a show called Devs. Have you heard about that?
Oh, I haven't. No.
Oh, Daniel.
No, I'll have to check it out.
I'm going to, after we stop recording now, I'm going to go watch the second episode. Cool. It is phenomenal. Please check it out. I've got it through, we've got an Apple TV. It's through the Apple TV app, but I think it's through FX or Stan or I can't remember.
That's cool. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, check it out, man. Maybe
there's just one thing. Are we finished or?
No.
Are we winding up or?
Yeah, but sort of. Let's see how we go.
I'll do this thing again. That was cool.
Yeah, it's good.
That's what I was trying to think of before. I just remembered it.
Cool.
And it's not, I won't claim this, it's not from me, but I fucking love it and I preach it. A guy called Steve Brown actually was the one that told me about this, but I've always kind of, known this, but he kind of put it in a really, really nice way. And that was all that stuff we were talking about before about slowly sparking up this brain and getting the idea to take hold. Is be a drop in the pond, be a drop. And then that drop ripples outwards, and then affects everyone around you. And then inspires other people to be drops. And then as more and more drops, it ripples and ripples out and, boom, connection.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, like this, these pathways of which we like living amongst. I agree. Yeah, like I think of it as like little light bulbs, or
Yeah.
I've heard like people talk about floating as well, like bringing up. So yeah, you're right. That's right. I think that one of the big things we could have identified in this conversation is just that of personal responsibility, getting ourselves out of the way, creating and moving forward, helping people around us, just doing good in the world. Being aware of the darkness, but not attaching to it.
And just doing your best as well. And your best doesn't mean the best you can fucking do. It just means whatever you're up to, like it's okay if you're not up to it some days, and it's okay if you need a rest and
don't beat yourself up about it.
Feeling down, or if you don't have the energy to contribute or whatever, like, you've got to really look after yourself first and get yourself thriving so that you can then give back even more eventually. So don't be too hard on yourself. I think we're doing good, and just keep going. Keep going.
Nice one. Yeah. All right, Daniel, that's a brilliant way to wrap it up. I think it's a really positive message that you, me, a lot of other different people, if we continue to live that way, can only have good things for not only ourselves as individuals, but society and civilization as a whole. So and planet Earth, and like you said, to the stars above. So it's let's create some good things.
100%, man. Much love.
Much love. Thank you very much, brother. I really enjoyed this conversation tonight, and I'm getting low on my battery here, so I might just have to
man. Just message me that stuff about the movie, about that show.
I will.
Cool, man.
And it'd be good to have a catch up and talk about it again sometime soon.
Cool. Much love to the entire world, all dimensions of reality, all dimensions of existence and non-existence, and the entire multiverse.
Yeah, nice one. Massive love. All right. Take care, eh?
Peace, bro.
Peace.